Do I really need a goal? So probably a couple of months ago, I had George come in the gym. I've been on and off with George for 15 years. She first came to my boot camp in 2010. And so she's not like a new client as such. She kind of done a few years with me, went off and did her own thing. Anyway, so since I started Nudge, she's had a few friends come and train with us at Nudge. And so she wanted to give it a go too. But during her consultation, like I would do for anyone else, I was kind of picking her brains as to what her goal was. And in true style, and I do know George, she said, do I really need a goal? And actually, at that point, I smiled because actually, maybe she didn't. So this is kind of probably I hope this presentation kind of meets you guys roughly where you are on the training cycle. If you're just starting out, perhaps you've come with an outcome goal, you know what's what. If you've been coming to me for ages, you've probably like moved along that kind of process as such, and you've got like more into kind of process goals as part of your lifestyle. And so, hopefully it draws some awareness to where you are on that part of the cycle, and establishes a little bit of chat and conversation around that. So first and foremost, I have to probably kind of disclose my own bias in this. I do have a psychology degree, which I suppose, whilst I really love getting people fitter, stronger, I really get, I totally understand the importance of biomechanics, physiology, sociology and other aspects. But really my main interest, and it always has been, is around people. I really love understanding people's, what motivates people, what makes them tick. I really love looking at things like personality, identity, motivation, adherence, and seeing what's what. So I think it's fair to disclose my own interest in that, because we're all kind of prone to bias. And despite science having no ego, we still have to kind of wiggle away from that. As a first position, I used to think that psychology precedes physiology. So, for example, if you got embarrassed, you kind of felt embarrassed and then you went red. If you were nervous, you felt nerves and then you're kind of, you got pimples or your hair stood on end. I always felt that it was kind of one before the other. But actually, as I've kind of moved through the time, my ideas have changed. I'm kind of always open to, changing my mind. But actually, in so many ways, getting moving as a first position changes everything thereafter. Once you're feeling better, it's a lot easier to think clearer. And your energy is different, and the rest falls into place. And so we can have a little explore about goal setting or mindset and motivation as a general principle. But like I said, I think it's only right and fair that I disclose my own interest before we start. What's also interesting is really, I've been doing this for 19 years and really the fitness market has matured. Back in the day, I was into things like motivational interviewing. So almost everyone came to me with a weight loss, inch loss or muscle tone goal. It was, with all things considered, it was fairly superficial. The kind of markets that I was working in, predominantly it was women in their 40s, maybe their early 50s who wanted to maintain a healthy body weight, change shape, look better in their clothes and maybe look better outside of it. So I used to do one-to-one training and I used to kind of meet with people for a consultation before we started. I used that time to kind of pick apart their goals and their motivations and their lifestyle, and I'd really dig deep to find out what their motivation. I was searching for a pain point because I knew that if I kind of got to the crux of the issue, then their adherence would improve. And I was kind of rigid back then. It's funny that I call it coaching because it really wasn't coaching. I'd state what they needed to do and then really push them to do it week in, week out. And actually, the results we got in the short term were fantastic. Lots of people losing weight, changing shape, getting great results. They were visible results, and that's how my business grew. But the impact it had on long-term success, I'm not so sure. I do think I probably influenced people to exercise over a long time, but actually some of the ways I approached it, I think probably I do differently now, or I do differently now. Now, like I said, the fitness market's matured. More recent years, people have feelings now. They're much more awareness of mental and emotional health. Like I said, the social aspect of awareness of society in general, the benefits of health and longevity. People are much more forthcoming when it comes to this stuff because actually, they want to improve the quality of life and the duration of their life. And, they understand the role of strength training in more recent years. They see the benefits of being strong in terms of their independence and their health and their injuries and their aches and pains. They want to feel supple, and I use the term robust energy systems. They realize they've got to have some sort of kind of fitness level to enjoy their day-to-day life and continue to have the same quality of life. Weight loss, inch loss, and toning are still a goal. People want to look good, but often they see it as a positive side effect of the things they're doing. So the kind of markets that I'm working in now, people, they're an educated consumer. So just as fitness has evolved, so is goal setting. Like I said, I used to kind of be all in on the kind of motivational interviewing aspect. I used to kind of push people and get that pain point and get that buy-in terms of motivation. But goal settings has changed as well, and perhaps people are a bit shy to disclose some things because of the nature of the world. I'd say things like social media or communication has changed that a little bit. People are hesitant to disclose everything to a certain point, but still the fact remains. Having a goal is a fundamental aspect of motivation. If we don't kind of know what your goal is, we don't really know whether you're going to succeed. Okay, so having a clear goal, when it comes to training, it is kind of a big aspect, really. But really, like I said, in terms of motivation, we look at the kind of mainstays of motivation, and they haven't changed. They're principles, really. And so if you look at the work of kind of someone like Daniel Pink, he talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And you'll see these kind of littered through what we do at Nudge, what we do at the Fit Green. Autonomy is being in control of your own kind of destiny as such. Like, I put the onus back on you guys, really. I claim to be dietary agnostic. If someone comes in with a preference for a certain style of eating, I'm going to work with them based on that. And, even if I disagree with it, I'll help them do it to the best level of success I can help them with. Similarly, mastery. I think when it comes to this kind of stuff, also people kind of really, traditionally in fitness, they want entertaining, not training as such. So it has to be kind of interesting for them. I suppose probably where we kind of, we make that distinction a nudge in the Fit Green is we're pushing you to get better, and getting better at something feels good. Most people don't actually need entertainment. Fitness isn't fun in the truest sense. It's satisfying. It's type 2 fun. And that's again, it's a big distinction we make. What we do has to be effective. Again, the type of people that we're working with don't have spare time. They've got busy jobs, families, other interests. And so, the time they spend doing fitness, they want to get the best results. But again, and this comes up, it's that sense of purpose. It kind of, cuts out the noise as such, having a sense of purpose. But again, how we set that up is interesting. It's easy with an outcome goal. But the trouble with outcome goals is once you've completed it, it can be hard to stay motivated. We've all had a friend go and do a marathon and then stop running afterwards entirely and regress back to worse than where they were before. And another quite obvious example is when I'm training someone to get married. They kind of put all their time and effort into getting into that dress. And then after they get married, the kind of wheels fall off. They can't find the motivation. It's, it's probably a culmination of all things, but from the stress and the build up to the day to the kind of unsustainable process. And then again, for many, many women who get married, they kind of gain weight in the kind of year or two afterwards. And that's what I mean is in terms of outcome goal, there's outcome goals are great because they're specific, but once you've achieved that, then it can be hard to find the next thing. So again, also the other thing also with outcome goals is they're harder to predict. You can't be certain of an outcome goal because there's a whole load of other factors in it. They're less controllable. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have an outcome goal, but just to be aware, there's some limiting aspects to it. You can have an outcome goal, but you need to be mindful of the consequence of that. So again, we talk about stages of change. This is a scientific model where people are at. Because like I said, when George came in to see me, she perhaps not typical of someone who I've met for the first time. She was already exercising despite being on and off with me. She'd always done something, and so many people are in that same situation. But we look at stages of change because the conversation I have around goal setting would differ from person to person. It's context dependent, and so you've got people in the pre-contemplation phase. They definitely do need to be mindful of their health and fitness, but it's not even on their radar. They're not even thinking about it. They're kind of doing what they do. You've got the contemplation phase, and people can be in this phase for 2 years or more. They know they need to do something. They're aware of it, just they're not doing it. You've got the preparation phase. I suppose that's where it kind of zhuzhes up. You're actively looking to do something. You're going to get moving. You're just working out what you're going to do. Then you've got the action stage. This is kind of where people get started. And again, like I said, the conversation I have with people who are just starting out and the people who've been on the with us for 6 months is very, very different. And I'll kind of talk about that in a moment. And then maintenance, like I said, beyond a certain point, you're kind of in maintenance mode. Now you can move up and down this kind of model as such, but and people will do, you'll regress and progress along this line, essentially, depending on what life throws at you, really. So the point is, I guess, nobody's motivated forever. George, possibly, like me, like everyone else, exercises out of habit. That's kind of good and bad in some ways, because I suppose, and as I highlight later on, you're going to move up and down that chain. Periodically, you're going to want to zhuzh it up, but exercise out of habit is much more of a process goal. And again, it's understanding the life cycle of a client. In truth, I know that first 60 days, really, when someone joins me is kind of critical. But if I can get them past the 6-month point, typically someone will stay with me for 2 years or more. So I've got kind of, over the last 19 years, I've got a pretty solid kind of database or evidence to support that. 4 weeks, the 4-week trial we do at Nudge is enough to get you in the door and just see what you're about, see if you like it, see if it's the right kind of fit for you. Like I say, that next 60 days is a big one in terms of kind of building the habits or building the routines around it. It's process goals are more about kind of it's that reductionist approach to fitness. It's the kind of critical steps, essentially, turning up 2 to 3 times a week to go, working towards your goal. It's much more about the behaviors than the outcomes. And behaviors, really, whether it comes to healthy eating or whether it's kind of exercise, they're much more manageable. It's a tick list, a daily tick list for many of us as to what you've got to do. If you're turning up at the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's a yes or no. Did you go to the gym? And that's what I mean about process goals. It's kind of, did you have your 5 fruits and veg every day? Did you drink that extra glass of water? Yes or no? It might seem like a reductionist approach to fitness, but if you reverse engineered any goal, it's the processes that kind of are the most important aspects. A few years ago, I decided to do a big race. I set out kind of a tiered plan. For the first 8 weeks, I ran 3 times a week, until I built myself up to a 10K. The next kind of block I built up, I ran 4 times a week and built up to kind of half marathon distance. The 18 weeks after that, I spent on a kind of marathon or extended marathon training program. So I got up to kind of, marathon distance. I reverse engineered that. I started running 3 times a week, then 4 times a week, then 5 times a week for progressive distance, because I knew that in order to complete the race that I wanted to complete, in 3 weeks before, I needed to comfortably be able to do 2 20-milers, back to back. And like I say, it's, you can reverse engineer all these things. If you want to be fit and healthy, you're going to need to exercise 2 to 5 times per week, really. So also, I suppose the bigger picture when it comes to this stuff, and perhaps the thing that people overlook, is how it fits with their lifestyle and the impact it has on their identity. Many people struggle with this because they've got like different identities in different places, and I suppose that's why we put such big emphasis on culture and community at Nudge, because it drives the change. The way people present at Nudge might not necessarily be how they present at work and home, but by having a place where they can be a certain person, they can assume that identity, and that's quite powerful in terms of adherence. I put on here also, bears who play the most live the longest, because also when we're considering how we do goal setting, and again, this is why the 4-week trial is kind of good for all of us, is because it allows it to see how it fits with your lifestyle. People often come in, they want to train 5 times a week and they want a radical transformation, but do their behaviors marry up with their goal? And that 4 weeks, that 6 weeks that we do initially gives us a chance to see if they're actually going to do what they say they would. When it comes to this kind of stuff, a few years ago, I kind of had a good, someone got me to do the Wheel of Life exercise. It's like you grade yourself 1 out of 10 on all these different aspects. And so back then I was kind of, well into the business. I was kind of working my arse off. We had a young family. I was also pretty committed to being a good athlete. So I wanted to compete in big races all over the world. I was, the 2 things that were kind of thriving with work. I was caning it in, I had plenty of people to work with, making good money. And I was kicking the arse out of races. I was fit. But it came at a cost, probably speak to EJ, but I was a bit of a shit husband. I did stuff with the family, but, I was tired and distracted. My friendships, I got lots of friends, but I was a crap friend. I hardly ever got to see my friends. And if I was totally honest also, health-wise, probably not in a great place either. And I think that's worth bearing in mind also when we're kind of looking at the bigger picture of stuff. I kind of champion the idea, the better looking your body, the more shit your life is. There's really no point having a 6-pack if you can't go out and enjoy a meal with your family or friends. Again, I have to be careful not to kind of impose my ideas on you, but for some people, having a 6-pack is their thing. They love fitness, but to me, anyone who succeeds in an area of their life to an extent is at the cost of something somewhere else. Typically for men in business, for example, you can have a killer business but a shit relationship, and I think it's worth bearing that in mind. We want to be kind of I'd much prefer to be a 7 or an 8 on everything than a 10 on one. And 10 on an aspect and a 1 on the other. And that's how it fits with your lifestyle. Like I said, when we're thinking about our fitness goals, we want to make sure we're having fun. We want to make sure we're kind of and perhaps if we looked at a bigger aspect of health and longevity, we're not just looking at physical health. It's mental and emotional, spiritual, dare I say, even social health. Like I say, there's no point being super fit and having no friends. So, and again, I suppose I'm like a contradiction in everything in some ways, moderation in everything except moderation. There's going to be periods in your life where you've got to double back a bit and get stuck in and make fitness, make something your focus. That might be when you're starting a new job. It might be when you're kind of getting an extension at home. It might be, when you get a new dog or something like that. You've probably got, like, your motivation shifts a little bit. And especially when it comes to fitness, we all kind of get in this kind of routine. And sometimes we take our foot off the gas. We're exercising out of habit, but actually, we probably, got to kind of get stuck in and focus on adding a few more vegetables, making sure you get into bed on time, eating a little bit more protein. And that's why we kind of do these accelerators at certain times of the year, just to kind of draw your awareness and give you a little bit of an extra push on certain things. But I suppose also when it comes to process-driven stuff, you need to be ready to go for it when the timing's right. And it's much easier to kind of get a wheel moving when it's already kind of in motion as such. If you've got to restart it, it's hard. So again, we kind of look at also, what's the least we've got to do to kind of keep fit? And because if we stay on top of that, when the timing's right, when the stars align, when you're motivated and ready to get stuck in again, we can scale it back up again. And I suppose the bottom point is trusting the process. It's often how we approach these things which are important. And that's why I kind of take that principle-driven approach to this kind of stuff. Because actually, once we get, if we get a mainstay, a foundation of principles, we can apply methods which can accelerate the program. So last thing I suppose is that adherence, and it's along that same line, it's being realistic with the goals that you set, how it fits with your lifestyle. It's making sure they're enjoyable. And like I said, enjoyment when it comes to exercise is kind of curious because it's not necessarily traditional fun, type 2 fun. So is it satisfying? And it's the reason we put such a high importance on the environment that you need to exercise in. having people around you, the small group model, and it's being flexible. And so the kind of behavioral change, kind of, there's tons, I've read tons around kind of behavioral change, but I like the kind of analogy they use in Switch: the elephant, the rider, and the path. So the rider is the rational part of your brain. Getting fit makes sense. But it's the elephant. You've got the emotional part of your brain. If the emotions are strong, it can be hard to to kind of direct. You just think about that time when you need a bit of chocolate or you need some wine. Like, we've got to kind of curtail the emotions as such, keep you on an even keel to some extent, or have like that underlying motivation, which controls the emotion. That's what I mean about purpose. Having a sense of purpose, like, channels your energy essentially, and allows you to kind of drive that elephant essentially. But the path needs to be wide enough. It needs to be. You need to have a flexible approach to your goals, because with reality, so many of us, our lifestyles change. You probably have a good couple of weeks where everything goes swimmingly, and then your kid's sick, or your boss gives you an extra assignment, or you're unwell, or something like that. Things are going to derail you, but as long as the path's wide enough, you can follow it and stick with it for long enough. So in answer to the question, do I really need a goal? I don't know. Yeah, you do, but you need to kind of take care of the outcome goals, which will change periodically. You need to have the processes that kind of underpin them. And then you need to consider the lifestyle and identity, which kind of sits behind it. Because once you get the lifestyle piece, once you get the identity, once you become perceive yourself as an exerciser, the rest